Okay, I just saw some news. I saw a tweet on Twitter, obviously, if it's a tweet, that a U.S. Navy jet crashes in Death Valley National Park, injuring seven. And before I even read this article, I knew, well, I was pretty sure that this jet was from Lemore Naval Air Station, where I've trained putting out fighter aircraft fires, extricating pilots. They do what's called live burns out at Lemore. We've driven our fire vehicles out to Lemore in a convoy to go do this training and worked with some of the Navy personnel out here. Now, this is a CNN news article here, so they're not going to give you everything that you need in this article, I don't believe, but I'll just go ahead and read it. Um, Actually, before I start, I'll go ahead and talk about the crash that happened when I worked for the 144th Fighter Wing. We lost one of our F-16s uh, in a crash, actually in China Lake. Colonel Best, who was a friend of mine, F-16 pilot at the base, was flying over China Lake. They'd go out there and they'd do dogfighting training, dissimilar aircraft training, uh, stuff like that. And Colonel Best was flying over China Lake, and all of a sudden, his engines went out. His engine went out. There's only one in the F-16, and two people saw this heads-up display video, and that was Senior Master Sergeant Chris Drudge, who was my boss in public affairs, and myself. I actually went through the flight video, the heads-up display video, and I had to redact some of the information in that. I'd gone to school to learn how to redact information from HUD displays, from weapon system video. It was called weapon system video. And I was trained and certified in this. And I was amazed at how calm Colonel Best stayed when he realized his jet was going to go down. So anyway, the jet, after he very calmly said, "Ah, losing power, lost power, my engine, I'm going down. I will be ejecting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever." And he ejected, and then the plane perfectly floated down and landed bottom side down. And if you were to look at the aircraft from the top, it looked like it just landed out in a watery field, which China Lake, I was told, was a dust abatement area. And it was hundreds of thousands, if not millions of acres. I don't know how big the piece of property is out there, but apparently it's under just a few inches of water that they would keep flooded in order to keep the dust down so we don't have huge dust storms out in California. But that jet went down and it tore the entire bottom of the aircraft off, basically. Just sheared everything off. And I tried to go out to the area. I volunteered to go to the area to do photographs and document the crash, but they sent Drudge out there, or Drudge sent himself. I don't know, and he went out and documented a bunch of the crash scene. And they brought the aircraft back to the base, and all of the thousands of little pieces that broke off from the bottom of the aircraft down here. If you're looking at this aircraft, it was basically from the nose all the way back here. Underneath, everything was just ripped off. They brought that all back to the base, and they laid all the parts out in an area on the base, and did photographs of every single piece, and there was a investigation unit that came out and investigated what had happened. Their final decision was that the plane crashed due to fuel starvation. Um, so now I see that there's another crash, but it's from about Lemore is about 45 minutes from Clovis, Fresno, where I lived, where the base was. Fresno Airport. Clovis was just a couple blocks down the street, pretty much, where I lived. And um, I'm real familiar with this base. Like I said, I've trained at this base. I've trained with the Navy on fighter jet incidents. So let's see what CNN has to say about this. A U.S. Navy F-18E Super Hornet jet crashes Wednesday in Death Valley National Park, commonly known as Star Wars Canyon, according to park spokesman Patrick Taylor, who told CNN that 7 visitors suffered minor injuries as a result. Huh. 7. As a general rule, military jets are not allowed to fly over national parks, but an exception was made over this particular section of Death Valley when it became a national park 25 years ago, in fact. 25 years ago, period. In fact, Taylor said that particular vista is a popular place to watch military training flights. The crash occurred east of Naval Air Weapons Station China Lake in California, according to the Navy. Search and rescue personnel are on scene. Search and rescue personnel are on scene. I would be willing to bet that public affairs from NAS and public affairs from the 144th Fighter Wing got sent out here to document what's going on. Actually, I bet Charles Vaughn is out there, and I wouldn't trust that guy as far as you could throw him. Lieutenant Commander Lita Bach, a spokesperson for the Joint Strike Fighter Wing, said in a statement, "The cause of the crash is currently under investigation," Bach added. The FA-18 has been assigned to the Vigilantes of Strike Fighter Squadron VFA 151 based at Naval Air Station Lemoore, California. So these guys also used to, they'd land at our airport at the 144th Fighter Wing. So we've had a few incidents where they landed and we had to do a few things with the fire department, in the fire department with these fighter pilots. So I'm kind of familiar with this aircraft also. U.S. Naval Air Forces had issued a tweet earlier Wednesday confirming a crash had taken place. So that's yesterday. No, today. At approximately 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the FA-18E crashed near NAWS CL Channel Lake. Search and rescue efforts are underway, Naval Air Forces tweeted from its verified Twitter account. A spokesperson for the Inyo County Sheriff's Office, Karma Roper, told CNN that they were helping to secure the area until the military arrived on scene. Naval Air Weapons Station China Lake is associated in the western Mojave Desert region of California and is approximately 125 miles from north of Los Angeles. The FA-18 strike fighter forms the backbone of the Navy's jet fleet, and the Super Hornet variant became operational in 2001. Okay, let me go back here. Search and rescue personnel are on scene, and the status of the pilot is currently unknown. Lieutenant Commander Lita Bach, a spokesperson for the Joint Strike Fighter Wing. This right here, I know, is She might not know who it is. They might not have told her who it was. But I guarantee you they know exactly who was in that jet. They don't want to release the name yet for some reason. But they don't not know who the pilot is in an aircraft that went down. They know where they are at all times. So that seems weird to me. Uh, it's interesting that this jet went down and 7 people were injured today, Wednesday, July 31st, the day of the declass, the day that Devin Nunes is supposed to be handed a bunch of information about the FISA court and basically a lot of corruption that's going on. Death Valley National Park injuring 7. I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. I do know that when our jet went down, I've talked about this so many times since this happened. We were basically told to keep quiet. And it's one of the things that I wasn't getting along very well with our higher ups because I wanted to report the story on our jet going down. Taxpayers pay for these jets. They want to know what's going on with our military, what happens with our money. And there's some things that are secret. There's some things that happen uh, that need to happen for the best interest of the people. But basically, I wanted to do a story on our F-16 going down, and I was shut down. I was told no. If they want a story to go out, a story will go out. And there was a quick little blurb on the news. Jet goes down. Really limited information. Now sports kind of thing. And I wanted to dig a little more into it. And the more I asked, the more I was met with resistance. And I was given a job duty to go out to Family Day and take pictures of families. And they kept telling me, make sure you get pictures of little kids. Make sure you take pictures of little kids with their families. Make sure that when you get these photos, make sure that you take pictures of families holding their little kids or holding their little kids' hands. And I thought it was really weird how they focused on me doing that. It's almost like they were trying to paint a picture or create a narrative, because that was what I was directed to do quite a bit. And now that I know that everything in that office was listened to and recorded and listened to through our phones, I really hope that somebody in the NSA or whatever agency goes through all of this information and studies things and researches things, QAnon team, who I believe is in every department of the military, certain people. I hope that they can put a lot of that together and see how I was trying to put out news about real world operations, taxpayer money, things like that. And I kept getting directives from a guy, I won't say who it is, but a guy that when I was in his truck, I'd find fake eyelashes, makeup, stuff like that. I had a wife and a daughter, but the daughter was way too young to be wearing fake eyelashes. Maybe they had to use those for cheer or dance, whatever, just kind of struck me as odd. And they wanted me to continually take photos of little kids at family day, whenever families were out. And we know now that China Lake has been so highly classified because there have been underground chambers, basically, underground bases, deep underground military bases that they were using for, quote, research on children, woodpecker cages to create dissociative identity disorder and basically torture little kids to turn them into Manchurian candidates later on in life and use them for whatever purpose needed as they trigger that child, trigger the adult that was tortured as a child. Um, and we also know that there was an earthquake earlier this month that centered at China Lake. And I'm hearing reports that there is basically a deep pocket of lava, molten rock underneath China Lake now. And I can't help but think those bases were blown up either by some kind of nuke or some kind of huge explosive that just turned all of that into liquid. Like on Breaking Bad when they put the guy in the bathtub and they turn him into liquid, get rid of him. Uh, I can't help but think that that's a that's a possibility that they just liquefied that whole area. And the other earthquake that was right around LA, they might have had something going on underneath there also, and liquefied whatever they had going on down there to get rid of all the evidence. You know, there is a unimaginable amount of money and power that people don't understand. They can do things like this. They want a distraction on the day FISA is declassified. They could put a jet down in California. They're going to have this all over the news probably. Yeah, and really make a big deal about it and try to get people distracted from, the real news. So I don't know. So I don't know if this part right here makes me wonder if this is signaling. Seven's the number for Jesus, Christianity. 6 is the number for Satan. Um, Curious to know if this pilot made it out, who the pilot was, what the pilot's name was, what side this pilot was on. It is Navy, uh, which is a whole different ball game than the Air Force. But I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot going on here that I don't feel easy about. Gives me an uneasy feeling. Oh, by the way, I was born in the Mojave Desert, Lancaster. Not too far from here. Lancaster, California. Death Valley's an hour away, hour and a half away, something like that. Barstow, Victorville, it's all out in this area. And there's a lot of really bad stuff that happens out in the desert out in California. So I think people should research this. The Q team, independent reporters. Research this. And it just keeps going on and on. I thought there would be more of the article, but these are all ads. All right. So, oh, by the way, I got a $500 bill, $500 electric bill this month. $508. That doesn't make any sense. I got some kind of credit last month. Where I had a $33 credit, and now they're telling me that I have a $508 bill. We use one air conditioner. The lights are off most of the time. Have a circular fan running sometimes. But makes absolutely no sense that I got a $508 bill. So if some people would check that out too, somehow, I'd appreciate that. Because I'm broke. I can't afford things like that, especially when I'm not using that much electricity. Okay, everybody have a good day.